him and I put him like a brand new agent into position of ISA. After 6 months, he cried. He literally cried, and he left the business altogether.
Thank you for joining. I am Kate Broddick, and you are in the vault with the Kate Broddick team. And I am so excited to have our special guest today, Andrea Blum with Real Brokerage, out towards the Don Mills area.
Correct.
Toronto.
Yes.
I can't be specific. You just told me that, so I don't really
Yes.
know 100%. And thank you for making the big drive to talk with me today.
Absolutely a pleasure, and thank you so much for having me. Actually, I had a long drive.
Yes.
So I had a lot of time to think about it, and I kind of start thinking of how we actually got to know each other, to be in each other's world. And I remember that the first time I saw you was at the Buzz conference on the stage.
Oh.
And I'm super passionate about, team building, and your entire presentation was on your team.
Yes.
And you went really deep into the operation portion.
Yes.
And what I really liked it is that I really looked at you and you really caught my attention, and I said, okay, besides the fact that she's beautiful, so that's one thing that it really stands out. I thought, okay, so here's the thing. I know for a fact that leaders are either integrators or visionary.
Yes.
And it's quite rare that you have someone that could be a clear visionary, and then it has this massive interest and also desire to understand and be completely immersed into the integration part of the business. So to me, it was a sold. Like, I saw you and I said, okay, she knows what she's talking about. It's clear. So, and here I am. So I'm so happy, that you caught that attention, and to be here with you right now and to be able to, learn more about your life and what you're doing. It's really, I
love that.
Really
and
good.
It's I'm very appreciative that you caught that apart about me, because I have been growing this team for almost a decade, and I started not knowing how to go, where to go, what direction. I didn't have any guidance on it. I just had a vision of what I wanted, maybe 5-10 years down the road, but I needed to find the steps to get there. And I've always been very passionate about my team and helping them push forward, not for life, but hopefully for a long time. And watching their growth has actually helped me grow into, I would say, the person that I am today, that I'm actually very proud of. 5 years ago, I was frazzled. 10 years ago, frazzled. But now I think I've found my place, and I think that I've
100%.
found a rhythm. And so to hear that, or have you acknowledge that, means a lot, right? Because
100%.
you've had so much success in your career. And I actually remember sitting down at the table with you.
Yes.
But your hair was shorter.
I know.
That's what it was when I saw you at your
Yes.
conference that you put
Yes.
on, which was a great
Yes.
event.
Thank you.
And I was like, okay, goodness, I think that was her. I'm almost positive. I remember top agent, because that's your
Yes.
your slogan, or your slogan.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then full circle, here we are. You asked me to
Yes.
speak at your event, and I was
Amazing. We loved it, and everybody loves you. Like, you put in a show. Put it this way. It's called Kate Broddick Team. It should be show.
Show. You know what the funny thing is I actually have a lot of anxiety before those things. And not because I'm afraid to public speak. I think it's because I value so much in wanting people to
100%.
learn. That I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Yeah.
But today, actually, and we had a little chat about what we wanted to speak about, and I'm so happy we were aligned. I am a big fan. So I'm going to tell you a little secret about me and your Instagram account. I'm not a creeper, because I'll tell you, I go to your account for inspiration on music.
Oh.
So when you do your reels, I love the music you pick. I love that it's a short video and a thought. I love thought-provoking questions. I love it when people can challenge me to sit back and reflect on myself and how I'm doing, or what I could do better, or what I can be grateful for. And I find your Instagram account is, I know that you do it yourself. I
am.
can tell that it's not branded in terms of someone else is posting your stuff for you.
No.
Very authentic.
Because it has my emotions. You can see
Yes.
you can
That's a
see-
good thing,
I
though.
know. I couldn't do it any other way. But you can see my emotions depending on what's going on in my life.
Mine too, probably. But I actually love it. And so I've actually gone to your accountant and been like, I love this. I resonate with this. I need to do this a little bit more in my own way. But I go to your account for music. I'm like, I'm stuck on a song. You know what? I'm going to go to Andrea's account. And sure enough, I pull a song out. It's great.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Anything I can provide, let me know.
And it's really relevant. But why we had that talk before we met today about where do we want to go with this direction was because you just got back from vacation.
Yes, I did.
And I was following your journey.
Thank you.
One of the things that I am sorting through in my own professional career is moving from that top producing agent, leading the team. This was my 12th year. So I think after a certain amount of time at the volume that I've done, you need to be re-inspired.
Yeah.
And you spoke a lot about being able to step out of that role and into, I would say, more of that CEO role where you're overseeing versus boots on the ground running, which
Yes.
a lot of people feel guilty about that. I know I do. And speaking with other team leaders, I feel a lot of guilt about removing myself. Do I feel like I'm too good for this? But that's not the case. You've now stepped into a role of almost like that managing partner where you're overseeing and cheering others on and helping them to grow their business and not feeling guilty about it was one of your posts.
Yeah.
Having a client call you and then you setting them up with one of your agents.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I want to go with today because I think it's something, well, one, we've never spoken about it. Two, it hits home hard for me. And I think it'll hit home hard for a lot of other team leaders. Tell me how you got there.
How I got in real estate?
Real estate and how you got to today from 15 years ago.
Well, my journey is not that glamorous. I didn't wake up and say, hey, I love people and homes and design. No, it was Google.
That's okay. Google's a lot for everything.
I Google a lot. I defer to find information in any capacity possible from people that they're a step ahead of me, from anything that I can learn. So I came here as an immigrant, and although to come here you need to have tons of degrees to be able to be approved to be part of this beautiful country that gave me so much, once you step foot in it, they're like, everything you've done back home means zero. So down the trash and just figure out what you want to do here. So I found myself what I believed at the time that I was old, 27.
Yeah.
That I need to start over. And I didn't have money. I was hungry. And I had a 5-year-old kid on my hip, and I said I need to do something that, one, wouldn't require me to go to school for 5 years again. I don't have the money for that. It has to be cheap. It has to be fast. It has to make sure that English is not to a level that, because my English is bad and I'm also dyslexic, so it would have been a disaster to go in any other areas. And I literally went home and I Googled, what can I do? But it was one requirement. I can't work for someone.
Yeah.
So that was my only requirement. So I Googled that and it came out real estate. And then I said, okay, sounds good. What do you need for that? And then I did like a personality thing. What would match with my personality to be like to pick as a job, and came up real estate. And I said, well, okay, that sounds pretty convincing to me. So I think I'm going to go that route. And that was it. In 2011, I got my license. And a year later, my first client became part of my team. I was obsessed with the idea of a team. So in my second years, I got this guy. And because I was studying a lot of teams and how they work, I was obsessed to have an ISA. Like for me, it wasn't buyer agent, transaction coordinator, ISA. I need to have an ISA. So
Yeah.
I took him and I put him like a brand new agent into position of ISA. After 6 months, he cried. He literally cried, and he left the business altogether. And I was a phenomenal leader. I had no compassion. Like, why are you crying? Like, what's that? You've just been rejected. Like,
Yeah.
so I had no skills whatsoever. So that was it. That was my first attempt. And then for a couple of years, I really became obsessed. Like, I have this personality where I get obsessed with something, and I get obsessed to become the best possible listing agent. Like, it was my mission. And I got really deep down the whole of learning psychology on decision making, scripts, dialogues. I said, if anybody wakes me up at any time of the day and night and has an objections to me, I will have 99% conversion to work on that objection and get the signatures, the contract signed. So that became my obsession. But then I went back into a team building. In 2018, I started to think, okay, I'm kind of annoyed by the revolving door of the team building. And I said to myself, okay, I'm going to become independent. That was it. I said, okay, I'm going to become independent, but then I take my time to Google again. And I did my research quite intensely, and I realized the margins are so tiny that in order for me to really become really successful, like to make a lot of money out of it, it would have to be mega. Like, it has to be, the number has to be huge.
Yeah.
So, and I think we were talking about, in good years, an independent does anywhere between 5% margin of profit, and then in bad years, -2. So the margins were so small that I said, I'm going to list another home. Just list one more listing and you're good to go. You don't need that. So I said, okay, let's buy a franchise. Let's buy a franchise because it's already established. I don't need to actually compete with the big names. I was with a very well-known brokerage at the time, and I was very happy and very thankful. Like, I'm really thankful for them and everything. To a certain extent, and my coaches, my mentors, and my all the other things, but to a certain extent, they also contribute to everything. So I'm very thankful for them. So I said, okay, I'm going to buy a franchise. And then I looked into a franchise, and I was like...
the numbers are hard.
I got depressed for the first time in my life.
Yep.
Like, a month, I was into wondering... and it's funny because in 2018, in the idea of opening a brokerage or buying a franchise and being so passionate about becoming a listing agent, I started to, to put together trainings, because I said, okay, when I'm going to have all of these people, there's going to be need for trainings and all of that. So I got into the coaching space and the online courses. And it was just coincidental that while I got disappointed on what would it mean to, and by all means, there's brokerages that they're super, super successful.
Absolutely.
There's franchises and independent that they're doing fantastic.
Absolutely.
So no passive judgment there or thinking. The ones that I looked at in that particular time in 2018, and I looked between 50 to 120 agents, were not profitable up to my standards.
Yes, of course.
So,
and that's of course. And that's okay to say, right?
Yes.
It's just what you were looking to move into, you really weren't supplementing your current income at your selling level.
Correct.
So it's hard then to go from managing 50 to 120 people making less money.
100%. And with more liability. That was the part that I was like, what? And all of that time that will take away from something that I'm so passionate about, which is coaching, to put it into that all bureaucracy. I said, no way that's my business model. So it was kind of coincidental that, out of my success, I was really very, very fortunate. And I always said, real estate is the greatest equalizer because it takes you out of poverty. I literally had nothing in my pocket. And then all of these years, 10 doors later because of real estate.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful career.
I'm so grateful and thankful. So it was funny and coincidental that my online course and my coaching program and my investments and my other investment and real estate investments started to produce passive income. And I started to be like, wait a second, I'm smelling something here that I wish now when I'm thinking I should have smelled it. Like I was talking with my husband recently and said, I wish I would have smelled this like in my 20s.
Yeah.
But I guess you need time. So I said to myself, you know what? If none of this work, I'm gonna come out of this business. There's no shame in it. I've done it. I'm happy with it. I'm thankful. I'm grateful. I'm passionate about it. But I need to go into somewhere where you can do passive income.
Yeah.
And then revenue share came in place.
Yeah.
And it really stopped me, like right at the time where I started to Google, what am I gonna do as a passive income? Because yes, I'm gonna continue servicing some of my best clients and stuff like that. But the idea is I'm done with real estate.
Yeah.
And revenue share came in, and I'm like,
what is this?
What? Is that for real? Is that for really? Are you telling me that this is available for us? And the rest is basically history. I think the only thing that I can say is that it was a big hit for me to realize that everything that I prepare myself, I've learned, I've done, as a team leader, all of a sudden you become a community builder, which is, wow, this is new for me. Like new skills, new way of dealing with everything. So it challenged me also in a different way, but it also got me to exactly what I was looking for. Where can I actually build something that gives me passive income? And as I transitioned to become that person of community builder, I entered the event planning portion.
Yeah, event planning.
Yes.
And it's more than just that. It's engaging and collaborating like-minded people who can learn, share, and move forward together.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. It's not just a party. It's a lot of organization, and
it's
you're gifting people the opportunity to network and to grow.
And I'll share with you a secret. I don't know if you want to put it in there, but as I was doing it, I realized, wait a second, if I didn't have that amount of money on the side to pay, it's $7,000 to do your course.
Yeah.
And $7,000 for someone who has a minimum wage job, a child.
It's a lot of money.
It's an enormous amount of money. I don't think people can comprehend what $7,000 means. And if you're into that treadmill, you can be for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it's just, sometimes it's not just because you're not motivated, you're not working hard, you're not doing the right things. It's because life, it puts you on a path that it doesn't allow you for nothing in the world to come out of that.
Yeah.
And I've seen it, I've done it, I've been into that cage, and that's why I left that country where I was. So one of the things that the new project that's going to come up is a project where we're going to organize an event where the money are going to be taken and someone will get qualified to receive that entire amount of money for them to go and do their license. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think as I stepped into that a new field of community builder, I think it almost kind of brought me where I was supposed to be, which is the space of contribution. So,
and I think that, once again, everyone's journey, I think, in real estate is very different. But I think what I love most about our career is there are a lot of pathways that a lot of people don't take or don't entertain, because why would I want to do that if I know that the money is in sales? Where that is true, but we spoke about the sustainability of transacting 200
100%.
deals a year, even transacting 50 higher end homes in the Toronto area. They are exhausting.
Yes.
We understand that they take longer to sell, more marketing dollars to invest,
100%.
more nurturing of clients oftentimes. And even though we're grateful for that, there is only so much of that we can sustain ourselves before we have an empty cup.
100%.
So I love the idea. And this has been such a, I want to say, controversial, not because it's bad, but because there's a lot of misinformation about revenue share. And a lot of people may feel like it feels like a network marketing or pyramid scheme. Some people just don't understand the numbers. How does this work? Am I now a recruiter? But I think that if it falls in line with what your pathway is for fulfillment and continuing on in this career where you're not boots on the ground running till you're 80, taking listing meetings, which we just talked about.
100%.
I think it's something for people to entertain. There's always different pathways in this business, and it doesn't have to be that generic, suit and tie, business suit, listing appointments, buyer meetings. Even myself, I've seen myself take a very different approach over, I would say, since 2021, where I now look forward to speaking engagements. I now look forward to having mastermind conversations in groups. I look forward to learning and sharing and offering a different perspective within this actual industry, doing a podcast. These are things that I would say, journey is starting to shift, because I know that I cannot sustain the volume of transactions. I know that I want to move into more of a coaching role with my team, which I'm trying to do, but that's hard with 3 boys,
Servicing.
2 team offices, servicing. We just went over all of that. So I think the perspective that I'd love to hear from you, because I know there's a lot of me's out there, and it sounds like you're on the right path and you offer a different perspective, a very grounded one and a very honest one. I think it's very honest of someone to say, I can't do this for the rest of my life, but I'm passionate about my career. I need to make a move, and I need to figure out how I'm going to do this, where I'm still generating an income that I can feel comfortable with the lifestyle I've created, but also feeling fulfilled from my career in itself. Yeah. How would one start? Like, what would you say? I mean, whether it's revenue share or not, you're more of that. You're building community together. That seems overwhelming to me. When you said you have 100 people in your download, I was like, oh my God, I can barely talk to 15 of my agents on a week. But if somebody wanted to step into more of that role, what would you say would be their first step? Like, how do they cultivate this lifestyle for themselves?
I think I think you touch onto so many great things, and specifically related to team leaders or agents. Let's say they haven't even yet stepped into that, but they're completely overwhelmed by the amount of transactions that they're closing. I think every agent has this path. You start as a new agent, and then you want to become successful, and then the next step is to become a team leader, and then to open a brokerage, and then to step back from production. And I think we're still at that stage in our community as real estate agents, where if you're not in sales, if you're not in production, you're not a good leader. You're not if you're not in sales, you're not a good leader. And I think that's the biggest misconception that I can think of. And I can tell you that the majority of people think that because they're the majority. But if you're looking at the greatest leaders of the biggest companies or the biggest teams within the industry in North America, and you talk to them like that, they understand and they don't judge and they agree. So then you have these very small amount of people that understand that being a leader does not actually require you to be in sales or ever to have been in sales.
Yeah.
As leadership has completely different skills than sales. And they're building businesses. I always said about myself, and I said about anyone like yourself, and it's not a criticism. It's the reality of things, and I've been there. If you're in production, even when you do your business report, you have an income.
Yes.
You have a tremendous income, don't get me wrong, and not to be ungrateful for it, but you have an income. You do not have a business. A business is where you can actually have all of your departments, all of your business works without you in it, and you do not produce money. The business produces money for you.
That's right. So really, we are the business, because if we step away, the business no longer
You're gone.
exists.
You're gone.
You're 100% right.
The problem that I saw with that immediately is that my lifestyle went up year after year after year, and I realized that the second I'm not going to sell, my options were to go into my savings and to go into my investment properties. And as initially that was the thought. You make a lot of money, you buy a lot of investment properties. As you get older, you retire, you start selling them. But here's the thing. Taxes.
That's right.
You're going to find yourself paying capital gain. You're going to find yourself that you're at the mercy of a market if you need to sell. And you're going to find yourself that you actually don't want to sell them.
No, you don't. We hold on to them like they're our babies.
Because you have what right now, or at least for me, I don't know for you, but I didn't have anything. So that means that if I can build something, my child is going to be able to start on a completely different level. I'm not talking high or low. There's no comparison here, but it's a different opportunity.
Yes, 100%.
They go to different schools. They have different friends. It's going to reflect into having a different husband and spouse, different friends altogether as adults, different jobs,
Yes.
different opportunities, better life.
Yeah, I agree.
So if I sell these ones for the purpose of to be sustainable for me as a retired person, then she's going to start from zero.
Yeah.
So I've done nothing.
Yeah.
I've done nothing. I took care of myself while I actually, been away most of the time from my child in the name of creating something for the child.
Yeah.
But now retirement comes, I can't actually offer you that. I'm sorry. Everything that I told you that mommy can be home because she's building something for you, it's down the drains because mommy has to retire and has to sell these things and have that potentially not even having the lifestyle anymore.
It's 100%. And I mean, I think that's the looming thought in a lot of our minds is we've worked so hard to build this, but then what's next?
If I were to give an advice to new agents, and I have, people that come into the coaching programs, and I said, think about retirement today. And they're like, what? I said, think about retirement today, because I always find people are 10 years, a decade behind. They're thinking that I'm going to do this when I get there. But the problem is when you get there, you need to do this in order to get here.
Yeah.
And it happens only a decade later. So if you know that, for example, you want to get to point B, in order to get to point B, you really have to make steps every single day from point A, because when you get to point B, if you think that you're ready to go to C right away, you're in denial and delusional. Completely in delusion. So you have to make sure that when you got your license, when they call you and say, Rico, what passed through, you registered, you're like, what's my retirement?
Yeah.
Because while I'm selling and becoming successful and learning this business, every day I have to make emotional, mental, and actions on a daily basis that will put me at the time of B that I actually am at the C.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're
And
screwed.
people don't do that in real estate, right? Because we're self-employed. We own a business. Really, do we own a business? You already made that very clear, and I agree with you 100%. Because if I step away, my business
Gone.
Right? And for retirement, we don't have retirement. I mean, unless you do investments, like stocks, bonds, investing, or investment properties. You're right. I mean, at the end of the day, do you want to solely rely on that?
Yeah.
What else is there? So becoming that team leader seems to be that glorified title.
Yeah.
But then at how long can you sustain that being in production? You can't. I would say 10 years max.
Yes, 10 years. I agree. 10 years. But here's the thing, because you said you're an independent contractor. You step out of the business and you're gone. Here's the thing. As a team leader, you're even worse.
Yes.
For two reasons. Your expenses are significantly higher. If an independent solo agent right now steps from their production and has some savings, they're not in debt.
No.
But you becoming that the second you stop selling because you're a team leader and you have expenses, you have office, you have admin, you have all of these people.
Marketing, yeah.
Market, all of it that you need to pay. So you're in a worse position than someone who's a solo agent that needs to retire.
That's right.
So that's one portion. Second, you already created dependence.
Yes.
So that's a huge thing on your shoulder. Like all of a sudden, am I going to actually be able to retire? I'm responsible for Mary, for Susan, for Michelle, for this. Oh, I can't do that to them.
Yes, it's a lot. It's a lot, actually. And you saying that and acknowledging that, I think is something that people need to think about. Because I remember during the pandemic in March of
What are you gonna
2020, I was like, I've got 5 staff. I have an office that they can't use. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I think any great leader who has compassion and empathy and really truly loves their people, they actually think about them before they think about themselves. And it's like, I am
100%.
responsible for feeding these people.
Yeah.
I'm responsible for their paycheck. I'm responsible for them, to have a career that they're proud of. So it is a lot as a team leader. And you're right. The second we step away, it's not that our money just stops and we can live off savings. Every month, those expenses,
Yes.
they're crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's this stigma that you touched on, I need to be in production. I need to show that I'm at the listing
I'm
presentation.
worthy. Yeah.
And if I'm not in production, boots on the ground, that means, I'm not good enough. Again, only people that they're not actually team leaders and big teams don't understand that you're supposed to come out of production. You're supposed to grow and maintain and support and sustain. You become a leader, like we mentioned before, because you're either a visionary or you're an integrator. And if you're a visionary, then you find your integrator. If you're integrated, then you find your visionary. 90% of the time, you're a visionary, because otherwise you wouldn't go that route. You must stay within a vision.
Yeah.
And the vision evolves. And my perception of leaders, I've seen so many fantastic listing agents, like hands down, some of the best listing agents. They're phenomenal at sales. It's a different department.
Yeah.
It's a different department. We have operation department. We wear all of these hats, but then we want to consider the business. If it's a business, then break it down by departments, because you have the marketing departments, the operation departments, you have the inside sales departments. You have all of these departments. Why are you doing all the jobs? Because you're not going to do all of them at the best.
Absolutely
If
not.
you're
And
a
I agree with
visionary,
you.
you have to lead. And not only that, but I truly believe that visionaries that really have quality skills of leading, they should lead. It's their duty. They were put here to lead people. People need, 99% of people need support.
They do.
And we are leaders because we can make decisions and we can help people come to conclusions, decisions, and make decisions for themselves, which most people can't. So they rely on you. You have a duty to become a leader. It's not just like, oh, am I a leader or am I not? If you have that quality, you should stop overthinking and just lead, because that's your role.
Yeah.
And then you have your sales department. You can have and recruit phenomenal salespeople that may be much better than you.
Absolutely.
Much better than you at sales. But what you give them that platform and support for them to flourish and to grow and expand and be phenomenal at what they're doing. So to me, it doesn't bother when people and soon are going to say, well, Andrea's coaching and she's no longer in production. Yeah, that's why I'm coaching, because otherwise I've been production. What's your point?
That's right. You've stepped into that leadership role where you've had your turn.
Yeah.
You've learned what you needed to learn. Now it's your duty to pass along that knowledge and experience to others to allow them the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
It's a huge responsibility. And there's two aspects of it. What I see team leaders and myself, I went through that process of thinking that, hey, I feel guilty if I'm not in production. Like people are asking me, how many transactions you closed last year? Right now, I'm like, 13. Yeah. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And guess what? I would love this year to have 2.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
like, actually,
Yes.
that was way too much.
Yes.
I overstepped.
Yeah, it's like that's it. But there's also another aspect that is super, super important that I see a lot of team leaders that have huge capacity of leaders that they can't actually become leaders. The financial step.
That's the hard part.
As time passes, there's no expansion. Really, there's no expansion in this world without a setback on your cash flow.
Yeah.
Your assets grow, your cash flow goes to shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're there, you question yourself a million times. What have I done? I've had tremendous success. Everything was comfortable because it becomes through familiarity extremely comfortable, and
Yeah.
it's becomes predictable already. So it's like, okay, I don't have that anxiety, and you step into discomfort of becoming responsible for people and discomfort of your cash flow to go down, and you're like, ugh, do I really want to do that? But then time passes and you stick with it, and then you see the results and you're like, yeah, of course it was the right decision.
Takes time.
This is the reason you're a leader, because you were able to, and I always say this, it's all about cortisol levels.
Yeah, oh God.
It's 100% a cortisol.
I feel like mine are on a high lately, but yes.
Right? It's a cortisol level game. Who knows how to manage that level of cortisol in their body? They're the ones that win. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And as a leader, you know how they say it's the bigger the business, the bigger the devil, something like that in the problem. So the bigger the cortisol.
Yeah, it is.
So all of a sudden you're like, my money is lower than before. I lose prestige.
Yeah.
And position. And
I'm responsible for all of you.
My cortisol is going to the roof, but I'm a leader. It's like, okay, what am I doing here?
What's the reward? But the reward does work itself out.
There's 2 major rewards, and I will mention the second one as absolutely by far way more important. The one is the financial reward. You do go through these steps, and very, very few actually end up really succeeding at it. So if it's hard for me, it's hard for everyone.
Of course.
So it's okay. The competition becomes very, very tiny.
Yeah.
So it's all good. So at some point you cross that bridge and you're comfortable with that, and then you see the build up, and then you see something even more important. Even if you're not yet at the level that you were financially before, when you're completely just in sales, you see that you gain 100% of your time back. And that's massive.
I think that's if you asked any top producing agent who's boots on the ground running, completely involved in sales, if you asked them for one thing that they could have, it would be time.
Because that's what we do.
Yeah.
At the beginning, we're after the money. And as we go through the stages, we're after the time.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And then the second one that by far, and most leaders that really go to a very high level, they would say the same thing. After you go through all the ups and downs of everything, you realize that there's a way to live life that is beyond success. And that's contribution. In my opinion, sincerely, is the higher state to be as a human being.
Yes.
And that does not have a freaking price. I can tell you that you're on crack cocaine. Like, sincerely, you're really like, and I don't do any drugs. I don't
No.
I don't even smoke. I don't drink coffee. I don't
Oh
drink.
my God, the coffee I can't give up.
Yeah,
Or
no,
the tea.
no coffee, no alcohol, no smoke for me. I'm that boring. But I can tell you that when you start to get the sense of contribution at that level, where you really are not only providing opportunities for financial freedom for people and having a better life for their children, but that emotional support because you grew as an individual and you have so much to give, and you know how to give it. Because before, even if you had it, I didn't know how to give it.
Didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, you didn't know what to do it. And you see the something that people need is that reassurance and certainty, to live with certainty. And the fact that you as a leader, you can give them that certainty on a daily basis, it's phenomenal. It's something that I wake up every morning and say I'm so blessed. Like I don't know how I end up here. I swear I don't know how I end up here. So I'm beyond. And I'll tell you another part that it's added to me, and probably not as much talked about it. When you're in a good place and you lead from a good place and on a place of contribution, there's a culture that starts and forms.
Yes.
And it takes off. I'll tell you something. I've learned in my second year that you need to write down your things, like your culture, your mission, your this and that.
Yes.
It doesn't exist. None of the things that you put on paper, because culture is something that grows by itself from itself. If you have to define your culture, that means you don't have a culture.
Yeah, it's because like attracts like. Vibrations attract the similar vibrations.
100%.
So it's a higher state of living when you're contributing your time, your energy, your expertise, your knowledge, your failures to help others overcome what they're going through and to reach another higher state of living.
Yeah.
It is. And it's not something that everyone wants to achieve because it's very uncomfortable. To up level to any level that you're higher than what you're currently in, there has to be a state of uncomfortability because you have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to lead with faith because you're not certain of where to go, but you know it's the right move to make.
Yes, yeah.
And that's a hard thing for people to do. And that's why you don't see as many up here, because most people get stuck right here.
Yeah.
Because at least they know the devil that they're dealing with.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
No,
like
there's not.
I'll be honest with you. There's some people that they find meaning and they find satisfaction and fulfillment of, I'm going to show homes in my 80s and I like it. I enjoy it. It fulfills me. It gives me pleasure. It makes me feel, active, and it, absolutely nothing wrong.
Nope.
I think it's a choice. It's just a choice.
Absolutely.
But if you do have it in you, and if it calls you, you kind of have no choice, because you wake up every morning feeling like, I feel an itch.
Yeah.
I need
There's
to
something
scratch.
else here. There's something else. I know that what I have, I'm grateful for, but I feel like there's something else. And there's always that little voice in the back of your mind saying, it's not that you don't love what you're doing.
100%. And that's the biggest misconception. Like somehow, I don't. No. It has nothing to do with it. I just came to the second level.
Yeah. And I feel like there was something more.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, I love your attitude and I love your perspective. I could listen to you talk all day long. Yeah. Where are you from?
I'm from Romania.
I love your accent. I just love it. It's very romantic.
It's very confusing accent, because we are a Latin-based country surrounded by all the other Slavic countries. So we have very similar with Italian. Like, I would say 30% of the words are similar, but we have also ts and shu and which are Slavic. But everything else, we have the Latin-based alphabet, and everything is Latin. So people are like, oh, I feel like you're Russian, but you're not Russian. But like, where to put you? But don't put me anywhere, because I'll be honest with you, I'm Canadian.
Yeah,
and I'm very, very proud to be Canadian, not to deny any of my roots. Very thankful the way I grew up. But
this is your country.
Yes, yeah. So grateful for the opportunities that I had here. So,
and I hope you host another event. There is one that you messaged me about.
Yes, and I hope you're coming.
About that. And I'm really grateful for you. You're a big advocate for community. You're a big advocate for collaboration and engagement. I think your mindset is superior in terms of the gratitude you show towards our industry, but also the gratitude you give to others in the industry. And I think this was a great way to introduce this because it's not talked a lot about. It's a scary step forward for most team leaders. And you have my wheels turning, just like your Instagram. And I'm like, I need a song. I'm going to go to you. Just honestly, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank
You're
you.
doing amazing things.
Same to you.
And we'll have to talk about that event.
100%. I want you there.
So if anyone were to want to find you, where would they find you?
My love language is Instagram.
Me too.
Yes, I'll be honest with you. That's my love language. I mean, I'm all on all the other platforms. It's under Andrea Blum on Instagram. My phone number has been everywhere for a long time, so everybody has my phone number. I don't have a problem to give my cell number. I always find it funny when you go to an agent, you don't even know anything about them. You can't really pin where they are or even if they're agents right now. Anyway, so Instagram would be the best. Yes.
So we'll tag that. And I just want to say thank you for coming today. And tune in to this episode, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube if you'd like to hear the full episode that will be airing in May. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
It was a pleasure.
Yes, I loved it. Honestly.